Luckily, I grew up in a very educated community, 30 minutes away from MIT, Harvard, all of the Ivy Leagues in Boston. And I think that speaks a lot to kids and their not value system, but their manners and so forth.
Sure.
So I don't remember getting teased too much. I'm sure I did, and how much of that I have sort of put under the surface and forgotten about. But I don't, I have a tougher time even today when I'm in an inner city environment where the people surrounding me don't have the same etiquette and don't have the same education, the same exposure. And that's really where I struggle more than where I grew up, in a suburb of Boston.
Well, to get a bit more of that sort of educated thought and idea, I want you to tell us, as a medical condition of dwarfism, what do you know is the cause of shorter stature, and in particular, in your case, what is the cause of this?
Well, remember, there are over 200 different types of dwarfism, achondroplasia being the most common. So if you were to meet another little person in your life, most likely they'll have achondroplasia. So I can only really speak to achondroplasia. Okay. It is a dominant gene. It is also a mutation. So what that means is an individual can have achondroplasia for two reasons. One would be their parents have it, and it's been inherited, as it was with my children. The other would be it's a genetic mutation, which is a complete unexplained event, which is what it was for me. I am the only little person in my family. My little brother is 6'3", and my parents, my grandfather was a genealogist, so you can imagine he spent a lot of time looking into this. And I am the only dwarf in my family of origin. But I then went on to meet my husband, who also has achondroplasia. Okay. We got married, and we have 3 children. I gave birth to 2 of them, and I flew to Moscow for the 3rd one to adopt from an orphanage, who also has achondroplasia, but clearly not from me or my husband. She, from all we know, which is really not much, is a mutation as well. Her parents were average height. And I suspect in Russia, it's a lot harder to be a little person. I have 2 children that I gave birth to, one in August of 1992, okay, the other in November of 1997. The gene was discovered in 1994 or 5. So that meant that my pregnancies were very, very different. In 1992, the only diagnostic tool that they could use was ultrasound. And again, they were looking at the femur in the fetus. And they could not measure that accurately until I was 24 weeks pregnant. So at that time, they told me, and I was actually being seen by the gentleman that wrote the growth charts for fetuses at UCSF. And he was the one reading my measurements from the ultrasound. And he said, "Jenny, this is a tough one." He said, "That femur is in the 7th percentile. And typically, if we're looking at a heterozygote, meaning that the embryo fetus has gotten the gene from one of you, that femur is going to be over the 10th percentile, right around between the 10th and the 20th or 30th or something. And you're coming in at the 7th, and that makes us very concerned that perhaps you're carrying a homozygote." And a homozygote, what that means in lay term, is a double dominant. And in achondroplasia, they have found that to be lethal. The baby is born and lives no more than a week, typically more a matter of hours, without life support. So it was a really tough call. So we went ahead and went with what we thought was right, and Alex was born, and obviously he's still with us. He's 20 years old, so he must be a heterozygote, although he has had a lot of medical issues. Sure. Jump ahead 5 years later, and in between that, by the way, I flew to Moscow to adopt the 2nd child. I'm pregnant again with our now 15-year-old, and I have an amniocentesis at 10 weeks. And within a week, I get a phone call from a genetic counselor at Baylor University in Texas telling me, "You have a heterozygote," 100% certainty. So you can imagine the difference in the stress involved around both pregnancies. I knew what my odds were when I was 10 years old and babysitting, and knew that I wanted to have children and I wanted to be a teacher. Did that influence my selection of mate? Did I say to myself, oh, I better not fall in love with another achondroplastic because we have a 25% chance of having a homozygote? Absolutely not. Do I ache for my boys who will most likely, by mere fact of numbers, will wind up with achondroplastic women, and this will be on the table? Do I ache for them before they are even, really dating? Absolutely, I ache for them.